Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor. Today we're going to be doing a new campaign with Tamurkhan. So as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. If you want to help support the channel, you can also become a member. It's just $5 a day, less than 20 cents, or $5 a month, less than 20 cents a day if you want to help out. And be sure to check out the rest of the content as well. We've got dozens and dozens of other campaigns. And I am going to get back to consistency and trying to release at least one episode a day of some kind of Total War campaign. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So sorry for the slightly delayed start. They just happened to release this new DLC like at the busiest week of my semester. Pretty much, I do teach English at a major university, for those of you new to the channel, and I just got a huge stack of new essays I had to grade like right when this released. And then I still have a bunch of final student presentation conferences via Zoom that I have to do over the next 2 weeks, but I feel pretty confident that I can start releasing at least Tamurkhan, and I'm going to do Elspeth and Bakaisen as well. But we'll start with Tamurkhan here. Okay, so has access to the Tamurkhan chieftains. We'll talk about that when we get in there. Campaign movement range, always good. That's for all armies too, which is nice. Recruitment health. I don't know why my headphone just went out, but okay. Recruitment health. Plus 10% for all non-demonic units. So that includes a lot of the stuff that you hire from the chieftains. So that's pretty nice. Wound recovery time -3. Hopefully we don't get into that situation, but it is nice. If he ever dies, he does come back pretty quickly. Nurgle's favorite son just gives him some extra resistance. Good for dueling. Plus 5 melee attack for non-demonic units. And then immune to psych for non-demonic units in his army. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. So they also reworked the plague system and the building cycle system to some extent. And now I've practiced this campaign, not a lot, but like the first 5 turns or so, because I want to get this content out as fast as I can. But probably, I've been looking at it / practicing, sort of theorizing what I think might be the best way to go for probably about an hour or two, I would say. Probably about 2 hours. I feel like they nerfed the early game of Nurgle pretty significantly, especially with the plagues. The plagues, I think, are turbo nerfed. Now, with someone like Kugath or the other dude, Epidemus, and with some technologies that you can get that affect plagues now, in the mid to late game, they might potentially be more powerful, although I doubt it. Those like really good specialty plagues you used to have were very nice. Like the 20% physical resist was extremely good. I'll just skip the media thing. You can watch that, the trailer, on YouTube or something if you want. But just for the sake of getting in here and just getting content out quickly, we'll go ahead and skip it. Okay, so you get some chieftains, which this is another annoying thing. I can't open up the Plagues Cauldron or the chieftains tabs even until you achieve certain things. So you can't just like start a campaign and just look at everything and just kind of see what you want to do, which is a little annoying. So even if you can't use the plagues or you can't use the chieftain stuff on turn 1, it'd be nice to be able to see it. But anyways, we've got these chieftains. The chieftains replace the corruption, I guess, campaign abilities that you could do before. I can't remember exactly what they were called, but the 4 different tabs of whenever you have a certain amount of corruption, you can do different effects. The first one was like 20% replenishment in a province for X number of turns, and then it just kind of went from there. I think the second one was like 20% extra chance of spreading plagues in a province. So it's replaced all that the other 2 lords will have, and it's got the chieftain's banner instead. That's another thing to look out for now. Whenever you have kind of newer, cool campaign mechanics, sometimes it can replace other campaign mechanics that you have. So I noticed that with Elspeth, and I'll do a separate video on her, but I was really disappointed that they took away the elector count management from Elspeth. Usually it was anyone that was in that region got the little dilemmas, and you had to choose like, who are you going to help, or are you not going to help? How do you keep these people from going to war with each other? And they just reworked that too to do a bunch of interesting new things you could spend your influence on, or whatever it's called. But she doesn't have that, right? So because she has the Gardens of Moor, and because she has the workshop, then she doesn't have the other thing. Which I get it. You know, that makes Carl feel unique because Carl, I think, is the only one that has that now. But it was a really fun system, and I was looking forward to doing it with Elspeth too. So just be aware of that. When they add systems, it looks like they potentially can take away some systems too. So they're trying to make each lord feel different with their own sort of set of systems, and not make the new ones feel too overpowered by stacking new systems on new systems. So I get it. I just wish that was more clear. Maybe it was, and I just didn't understand it. But my expectation was I'd also get the other stuff. But anyways, Tamurkhan, here we go. So the first thing that I'll mention here, and we'll get into a fight pretty quickly, is the building cycling. They've changed around where some of the units are, and now they cost infections instead of gold. So one of the big problems previously was the econ was very, very bad with Kugath, especially after they nerfed his money plague. So there was a plague, a specialty plague you could get when the game released that I think was either 200 or 250% bonus sack damage. And so with that plague, your economy could make sense, and it was like the old school Warriors of Chaos economy where you would just go in massive debt with all of your army upkeep and everything, but you would have this big pile of gold. So you might be losing 9,000 gold a turn or something, which is where I was, and I really liked the Kugath campaign on release. But you might have 100, 150,000 in reserve just from sacking because you'd be getting 40,000 gold per sack. So that actually made the econ work. It did force you to work towards a certain plague, but it made the econ work and was fine. However, for Immortal Empires, they nerfed the heck out of it. Now it's only like 100% bonus sack, and now they've completely gotten rid of it. But it made it very difficult to manage money-wise. I think that these buildings, these initial buildings, were like 5,000 gold each, and the upper level one, the advanced one, was 10,000 gold each. Just lower the cost. Like, I don't think you had to rework it. Just make it 2 and 4, 2,000, 4,000. I mean, most military buildings for a lot of factions are, especially low level, like tier 1 or tier 2. The thing is, this eventually turns into a tier 5, but only every so often. I think they should just lower the cost. So they've done the infections, though. The problem with this is a much scarcer resource than it was before this patch, before the light rework. In my opinion, at least in the first few turns, it is hard to get infections. You don't get nearly as many from the fights. You have to build buildings in your towns to potentially get them, and that's only 10 per turn, but that's also competing with the military buildings themselves. And you need a lot of gold because your economy's still not amazing. It's okay, but if you need a gold building and you need an infections building, then that already covers your first 2 building ranks. Like, this is tier 2 right now, and you only get 1 building per rank. So, you know, you need infections for this, but you also need the buildings now instead of just battles to get the infections. So I feel like it's probably going to be too crowded. So I'm not really a fan of the infections thing, and that 200 is a lot, at least as far as I see so far. Also, beforehand with the plagues, most of the plagues gave you 5 infections on spread, and you could make really cheap plagues, like just 50 infection plagues to spread around. And those things bounced around a lot. And there was one of the opening plagues before that gave you 10 infections per. So, infection's a lot harder to come by. It costs a lot. The reason that Nurgle could get away with these high costs and he was still good when it initially came out is because he had insanely good defense. So that was when every single town had a non-walled settlement battle where you could still put in towers. And Nurgle towers were just like super OP. It was like the tier 1 cheat towers were like AoE splash damage, like just massive damage. And you just had a bunch of, you know, sacks of meat you could throw in front of them. So the enemy just could not kill your units fast enough to overcome those towers. And you could just put them everywhere because they were so cheap. So there were some fights where I like defended, you know, a stack of 15 plus dwarves early on in that campaign with like 6 units in a garrison, just because of those towers. So that means that, yes, your buildings were very expensive, but they were also very secure. But now that they've nerfed the towers, everything is not an unwalled siege battle by default anymore. Your buildings are very vulnerable. Like, your towns are really vulnerable. And if you get sacked, with a 5,000 gold, for one building in it, or a 10,000 gold one, that's really bad. So, anyways, so that's how the money used to work fine. But then, since Immortal Empires, it hasn't been fine. This is their answer. I don't particularly like it, if we be honest, but I think it'll be okay. Like, we can eventually get enough infections to do this. I think it'll be fine, but it is a bit of a nerf to the early game. And obviously, not only are these hard to come by, this competes with plagues themselves. So if you want to do plagues and you want to actually build up an army, it's very hard to do both at the same time now. Okay, but as far as the units themselves, then we'll get into a fight here. They also reworked it so the early game stuff is not as good. You kind of had to go the monstrous version. Like, this thing right here used to be different. So you used to be able to get a soul grinder at tier 3. So this one only went up to tier 3, and I think this had a soul grinder on it. So you could actually get a soul grinder in your army by like turn 10 or 15, which was really nice. And it just had a bunch of good sort of monstrous units pretty cheaply. I think, like, this was the same. I'm pretty sure it was Forsaken Marauders on both of these. But this used to be Chaos Spawn, I'm pretty sure, which was a pretty nice, like, carry unit. Because that's really what you need. You have a bunch of chafe units that you can get pretty quickly, but you need to be able to get to these beast-like units that can help out. So you could get Spawn, and then I think you may have gotten some Warriors of Chaos before. Chosen were not this early, so that is nice. But then eventually you got a Soul Grinder as well. You may have gotten some other monster. I think maybe Toad. No, Toads weren't in there. There was something. There was definitely Forsaken and Spawn, which were both like good early game units. And then you had the Soul Grinder and a couple of other okay units. Probably like Chaos Warriors or Chaos Knights or something in there. But now it's just all infantry. Like, most of the early game stuff. So this is what we're going to be getting because we want the non-demonic stuff. And these are okay. These can almost be like cavalry. They do have 36 charge. They have high weapon strength. You do start off with a piece of cavalry. So these can kind of be carry units-ish in a pinch. So you can, flank and charge people from behind with these, and they will do a lot of damage. And then you just have your frontline units. Pestigors are kind of worthless. In my opinion, they are a little bit better than Marauders. But, I mean, they have, like, Vanguard, which is okay, but just not a huge fan of those. They're alright. The Warriors of Chaos are great. I mean, it's just almost exactly what you want from a Nurgle unit. Lots of staying power, armor-piercing damage, and then, of course, Chosen are extremely good. Now, you have to have a Tier 3 building to get to Chosen, but historically, those are Tier 4, Tier 5 units. So that's a pretty good little bargain. These, I just wouldn't even get these with this guy. Just looking at the numbers, unless you're playing a faction, I think Epidemus might get some buffs to, like, the Poppy buildings where they cycle faster. I'm pretty sure he does. So if you get buffs to these guys, maybe consider them. But I think the Plague Bearers are on par with the Warriors of Chaos in terms of just everything. They are a little bit cheaper. It depends on how much armor piercing the enemy has, but Warriors of Chaos have 100 armor. Those only have 30. They do have the 20% physical resist, which is cool. They have a little bit more HP. But I believe against especially a lot of entry-level units, Warriors of Chaos are going to have better staying power, especially against magical attacks, because magical attacks are going to negate the physical resist. These guys are slower, although not that much slower. And then 31, 37... So these actually have the Cloud of Flies, though, for 41. And these do 48 damage per hit. These do 38, but it's mostly armor piercing. So I think, especially against armor targets, these are going to do more damage. But, I mean, the bottom line is they're very, very similar. They're very similar. I think Warriors of Chaos, in a lot of situations, I'd probably give them a slight edge unless you have specific buffs for Plague Bearers. But otherwise, they're extremely similar. Nurglings are bad. They're just kind of chafe units. So I think Marauders are probably better than Nurglings. Nurglings with the dude that gives all the buffs to Nurglings, Kugath, is actually pretty decent, pretty cost effective early on. But if you don't have Kugath, and I think these have even been nerfed a little bit over time, I would probably rather go with Marauders, but again, they're very similar. Where you get huge advantages here is once you start to get to Chosen. Chosen are, I think, way better than Exalted Plague Bearers. They are a little bit more expensive, but they're just going to have way, way more stats in general, especially against heavily armored targets. So that's why I think this one's a little bit better. And you get the Forsaken. You get an actual mobile unit that can flank and charge people, which is pretty nice. Versus, again, all of these guys are super slow, so that's no good. As far as this goes, well, let's get into a fight here. I've been talking enough. Let's do a fight, and then I'll show you some more of the units and kind of what I'm thinking there. But the second tree is the one that I would get with this guy. Okay. Now, we don't start off with any heroes. I don't think. Let me just double check that. Okay, yeah. I was about to say, unless there's somewhere weird on the map, you don't start off with any heroes. So you got to get to the heroes early, but... and let's go ahead and... I think you want to hire these things as fast as you can. And that's another thing, is like hiring is pretty expensive because you basically have to globally recruit almost everything. How much are... Okay, so these are significantly more to hire, the Warriors of Chaos, but... I don't know. This guy's an insanely good bargain, but he's considered advanced. Man, if he was early on, I would definitely get more of these. I love this thing. He's got a nice little debuff that lowers melee attack. He's got regeneration. He has high melee defense. He can break down walls. He's got good armor, good physical resist. He's just kind of a good just glue unit that you just want to throw in there. Like, you don't want a whole army of them, but just having like a couple of those guys would be nice. Okay, but we're gonna... Let me make sure I have enough to get the building that I want. We need a spellcaster early on. Now, this is nice that you can get these dudes, like, early. So you don't... You used to have to get, like, very specific resource buildings. Cultist is also nice, but that's 2,000 gold. So it's kind of hard to get to him. It'd be nice if they gave you a cultist or a wizard or something early, but anyways, you just kind of get the money building, which is cool. So we got to get that. So we want a spellcaster. He doesn't cast spells. Your first chieftain that you get doesn't have spells. Some of the later ones do, but this dude also has replenishment. So he's one of the better casters, I think, in the game. And he gets, like, a couple of decent mounts, too. So he's solid. You want him. So we're going to get that, hire him, sell that building, and then put something else there. Either infections or a military building or something. Okay, so we got that. Got our budget. And I think we just go for the business units. We might have to hire these dudes anyways. We just want as many units as we can get early on, because we're just not going to be able to get... we're just not going to be able to get military buildings early on. So we're just not going to have the infections. We're going to need the money. All that kind of stuff. Okay. Alright, we're going to fight it, because we need everybody to be as healthy as we can keep them. Because we do have to fight, or you're heavily encouraged to fight... I'll blank it out his name. The big Dragon Ogre dude. You got to fight the big Dragon Ogre Warriors of Chaos guy early on. So he's tough. That's going to be a difficult duel with Tamurkhan too. Tamurkhan is considered large. That Dragon Ogre does a ton of damage to large units. Tamurkhan does get a bonus to large too. But that fight can be pretty challenging. So you want to hire these guys ASAP so that they get replenishment. We'll make him... Frontline. So I like to make 3 kind of my flankers. 1 are like my frontline stuff that I want to engage with and definitely fight with. 2 are like supplemental things that I want to put on the line. I just don't want them to be the first ones to get hit. And then 3, I usually like my cavalry. 4, typically flyers or big monsters. And then 5 is artillery. It's not really like a very scientific, you know, type of reasoning for that. That's just how I organize my stuff. Alright. I'm going to wait this out for just a little bit because they're going to force me to come to them anyways. I'm just going to wrap around over here. And this guy gets regeneration. So that is nice too. Single entity units. I love how they did add some extra... So overall, I may have sounded a little critical about the DLC. I still think it's awesome. I still think you should buy it. I'm not sponsored or paid for them. I had to buy this myself. They actually changed their structure basically with content creators recently. I guess to save budget or something. I don't know why it costs extra money just to send out keys and have people rep your game. But pretty much what they're trying to do, I think, and we'll just talk for a second while I'm waiting on this guy to regen up a bit, is they're trying to heavily promote the bigger content creators, I feel like, at the expense of the smaller ones. So they're trying to say, hey, Legend of Total War, or, you know, these other big people, like, please come, like, play our game, play the new thing. We're going to give you exclusive early access, so people have to watch yours. And we're going to, you know, take out some of the smaller content creator people. It's like, am I really leeching that many views? Or people like me that get a couple hundred views, you know, or something like that? I don't know. But I believe that's their strategy. That's not like a quote, you know, from their marketing team. But I think they're trying to tempt the bigger content creators to cover more of their release by giving them exclusive access, early access to stuff. Which is also why I don't have a lot of campaign stuff ready to go, because I just didn't get access until everyone else did. Which is fine, but I had been getting early access for the Warhammer 3 stuff. Because their threshold used to be, I think, something like 10,000 subs. I might still be able to get it. I just have to, like, reapply. So we'll see. So I'm just letting this dude heal up a little bit. That's probably fine. So single entity things can heal beyond where they start the fight. But multiple entity units start off with each individual model already being at full health. You're just short on models. So the regeneration, in other words, is very strong, or healing spells are very strong on wards, heroes, individual monsters, but less so on anything else. Although it's still good. We're going to have a lot of heroes, so getting healing magic, which is why we're going to go for the Nurgle magic. I think death magic is good, but getting healing magic, healing spells is so good with those heroes. Because then if they don't, you know, fully heal up from replenishment, or you have to fight multiple battles in a row without getting replenishment, you can use the healing at the beginning of the fight and heal them up. So healing factions like Nurgle, Vampire Counts, those types of things are very, very good with heroes and large monsters. Okay. So they have also, I mean, they've added some extra diversity to, like, Nurgle's units, which is cool. In terms of, like, you do have, like, actual cavalry now. You do have some more, like, monsters. It's not just, like, a bunch of meat, you know, meat and plagues. But I guess maybe they felt like they had to nerf the plagues a little bit to account for that. Okay, so we just don't want these guys to be frontline. Their main goal is to shut up these Marauder Berserkers. Now, these are anti-large, so we would love to match these up with the trolls. So that looks like they're going to go for that. Oh, get those in there. We'll see if we can flank these around. I don't know if we're going to be able to. We probably just got to throw them in there. So not a great start. I should have microed dude a little bit better. We'll just leave their lord alone. Just kill everybody else. Why are we not just wrecking these guys? I guess we're getting, like, blocked. There's just not a lot going on here. There we go. So we kind of got a little locked up there. There we go. Now we're wrecking them. So you got to pay attention to that kind of stuff sometimes. If, you know, they're positioning around physical objects like trees and things like that. If you're just kind of getting bottlenecked, obviously you want to fix that. Where are the berserkers? That's what I want to kill. There. Because those things can actually do some big damage. So we are getting bottlenecked over here too. I probably should have come in a little bit more. So this edge of this hill didn't bottleneck me as much. But man, these cavalry are extremely good. At least they feel that way. Okay, so let's just have the cav just run people down. I think they're all gonna run here. Yeah. Let's make sure we kill the Lord. Your army ability is pretty terrible at level 1, so the tech we're gonna get is the healing one. You can actually get that super early. So that is nice. That's a pretty big buff. Because you could not get that until tier 2 or 3, I think, before with the techs. I don't know why we're chasing with those. They're never gonna catch anybody. Carrying like 500 pounds of armor. You know what, I'll just let them run. We'll just save time. It doesn't matter. If they want to run, I can just fight them and kill them again. Yeah, so these things are even just like bottlenecks, not doing that much. For like 20 seconds before I notice it. And then they still slaughtered everybody. These put up some good numbers. But you do deal a lot better with ranged units now. Especially with those cav. Now, I'm not sure what the equivalency is here in terms of infection. So that, I mean, 3 turns of a building in a town giving infections is 30. 3 turns of income is 600. So I do kind of need the money a little bit more right now, but this is decent. I feel like maybe I should be just getting the infections. I don't know. I do need to hire, like, more units, though. Alright. I think I'm going to go with this, even though technically I think the infections was a better bargain there. I just need money right now. Money, 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 money. Because I need to hire all these units. I need to just empty my recruitment pool and just get everybody full health. Okay, so there are actually some pretty good choices here. So that's good from a strategic standpoint. So there's not one obvious way that you have to do this. Obviously, or too many obviously's, but whatever. You really want this one right here as soon as you can get it. 20% casualty replenishment for non-demonic units. And as you can see, that includes a lot of the other non-Nurgle units you can get. So that's incredibly good. Heroic Killing Blow is okay. Like, that does quite a bit of damage, especially on charge. You can really wreck some people with that. Regeneration is good. 10% hit points is good. So not crazy, but this is like nice dueling stuff. And then extra abilities for Toe Dragons. We're probably not going to have a lot of these for a long time. He does get one as a mount eventually, but that's not amazing. Now, that does give... I think that gives him Unbreakable too. So, I mean, that is worth noting. And then the Plague Ogres, we're probably not going to have a lot of them early, although in the mid-game, I think I'm going to go for the buildings that give them. So, that could be good later. And then this, vigor loss reduction and upkeep reduction for all armies. Not just yours, but if you have another army that's also following along with you, it's minus 25%. So that's all obviously incredibly good. Okay. So your choices. You still have Blue Tree. This is classic, you know, what you want to do in most legendary campaigns. And I forgot to say it. This is legendary very hard as well. So it's the highest difficulty we can do. 10% upkeep. Extremely good. Corruption is okay. Looter is okay. Like, these other ones are okay. Unholy Resilience. Extremely good. 30% replenishment for our main guy here, who can face tank a lot of things. Lightning Strike. Very good. Requires 3 points now, but still really good. This other stuff is okay, but you just need 1 more point in something. And then, of course, Renowned and Feared. Always very good 1 point bargain. So that's nice. And then, let me see. Blight Swarm here. Okay, minus defense. Now we're going to have such a huge diversity of units, potentially, especially early on. I don't think a lot of the red tree is probably worth it. 1 point here is nice for the extra experience gained, and the extra leadership is very good. And then if you want to do this early on, I think this is probably where we want to be, because again, I'm going to be getting the cycle buildings that just provide a lot of these infantry people early on. And then I'm going to use my advanced building eventually to get more of the carry type of units. So if you want to go into this early, Armor of Malady is okay. But I think going this yellow tree is actually quite good. Now, that's unusual, but the reason for that is you get Foetid Stench, which is a permanent -8 leadership for everybody around you. So that's going to make them run a lot earlier. So that's quite good. And then Pestilent Decay. So this one is a permanent 16 to 32 damage per second for all units in a 35 radius that are close by. So it's like a little mini Flock of Doom or something that's just permanently up. So really, really good at tearing through infantry lines. And, you know, he becomes a pretty good dueler too, right? You get 20% weapon damage, either extra melee attack or hard to hit or whatever. And when you get on this thing, then you're going to be pretty good at fighting stuff. So I think probably either Blue Tree or this tree is where to be. When I first started out, I was doing this just because Foetid Stench and Pestilent Decay are so good. But I do think we're probably going to be able to wreck infantry lines anyways early on. Like, that's just kind of what we're good at. The bigger concern is going to be large monstrous units, lords, or ranged units. And we're not going to be getting the decay. Although this would break the lines and allow you to run in. And it's obviously extremely good on sieges. It's tough. But I kind of want to go blue because the money is such a huge deal. Lightning Strike is obviously when we face stacks of multiple armies, especially we're probably going to be fighting greenskins. If they get a wall, you can Lightning Strike out their wall. Okay, I'm just going to go blue. I thought about being different, you know, and going for this one here, and that's what I tried in my sort of trial run. This can help you duel the Dragon Ogre dude too, but I'm just gonna hope that I have enough combat prowess to make in-battle work and then just work on the campaign stuff. And that's usually, historically, what I think has been the correct play if you're playing on Legendary. Okay, Fecundity is where you want to go early on. This gives you a tier 2 army ability that has a nice heal that chains together so it can affect up to 5 different units. And gives them all somewhere around 8 to 10% extra health and gives them extra vigor. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And your normal army ability sucks. So, and again, because we're going to have such diverse units. I just don't think that going in the military tree is really worth it. If you do, I think maybe Specimen Collector, just for the charge bonus. It does help out a couple of units that you get early on, your Toads, your other cavalry dudes, but we're not going to be getting a lot of additional cavalry early on. So you can think about it. It's not that much more. It's 3 turns, but I think Fecundity is probably fine. This stuff up here is like really late game stuff, so you definitely don't want that early on. This, for infantry, seems like it would be good, but that's just movement speed. You're already slow. You're just going to be sticking in combat anyways. You get 1 rank, but whatever. This is not even for units we're going to be using a lot, so this is for the demonic dudes. And then this over here, like, extra weapon strength is nice, melee attack is nice, armor and melee defense, so like, it's pretty good. If you go over there, it's pretty good. But I would just probably rather be in the faction tree. So if you want to come over here and help your infantry out early, stack that with like the red tree, that can be pretty good. But over here, I think you have to do this stuff in order to make your plagues worth anything. We can't see the plagues this episode, probably. It'll probably be next episode. You get Pestiferous Life, extra infections, magical drop chance, corruptions, kind of whatever. Campaign movement range, obviously very good. Despicable Rivals, extra melee attack, and weapon strength is nice. Casualty replenishment rate is good. Nurgle's blessed if you kind of want to be diplomatic with people, but you probably just want to kill them all. And then you kind of have a choice here. This is more like military plague type of stuff, and this is more like plague bonus type of stuff. So I think probably going up the left tree, you get an extra 5% to spread plagues and additional infections if you do those provincial edicts. Plague Sight is kind of whatever, but you do get vision, potentially, of enemies. You get 1 extra Nurgling when a plague spreads, but that's only to an owned region, so something you own. Not to enemy settlements, not to enemy armies, just something you own. And then total favor plus 150 when a plague is spread in the same way. So the Nurgling thing used to just be an early plague you could cast and just stockpile a ton of Nurglings. So getting it this late, by like turn 20 or something, feels a little odd. Nurglings are definitely going to be outclassed at that point. But the extra favor is nice. That was also a later game plague component you could get, but it wasn't a piece of any of the big special plagues. So you very rarely got that one most of the time. So that's really nice. The bouncing around, getting extra money is good. Population surplus for newly captured settlements. I think this was a super late game tech before, so now you can get that early. That's actually really nice because most places you're going to want money building for sure, and then either infections or a military building. So the fact that you can just pop up and immediately get that is nice. That's also effectively every place you take over is like an extra 2,000 gold or something, because I think that's what it takes in addition to the growth to bump something up. And it costs multiple turns to do that. It's probably going to take you 2 or 3 turns to get the growth, to level them up, and then it's going to take 3 or 4 turns to go from tier 1 to tier 2, and that's all turns that you could have had a money building running. So there's that extra opportunity cost of an additional 1,000 or 2,000 gold. So this thing is putting up 3,000 or 4,000 gold per town you take over extra that you're getting. So that's really, really good by having that 1 extra pop. Or I guess, no, hold on. Sorry, I haven't had a ton of sleep. You get the pop, but you still have to pay for the settlement. Right? Yeah, it's just a population surplus. So you don't get it at tier 2. So it saves you the time. It's still saving you like 1,000 gold. But you still have to build the building. Okay. So not as crazy as I thought, but still good. And then future plagues, 5%. And then this one, 15 extra infections when it spreads around, which is nice. Again, this used to be something that was a lot earlier. It was 10 infections on one early plague component, and used to be 5 infections on the other ones. You get an extra blessed symptom, which we'll talk about that more later on. Construction cost, obviously good. Nurgle corruption's kind of whatever. You're just going to have a ton of corruption anyways. Although there's less corruption now because I think a lot of the plagues don't automatically spread like that for corruption like they used to. So that was another advantage of previous Nurgle, is that they just had their corruption everywhere all the time, already going in adjacent provinces. So you already got those bonuses before you even moved in, especially in terms of things like public order, which was really nice. So they've nerfed the corruption quite a bit. 50 treasury each time a cycle completes. That's okay. Later in the game, if you have a ton of cycles going, obviously that's good. And then 5% spread chance and minus 10% to create plague is good. Plague, infections from buildings, decent. And then plague duration. So getting through a lot of this stuff, definitely up through, I would say, come to grandfather. The other one, where's the cycle? Did I overlook that? I thought there was one that was like basic military cycle is down. Oh, it's over here. Okay, here we go. So fever incubation, additional growth, rush costs. This cycle is really good once you get a lot of military buildings, obviously. So it's 25% more units you're going to be getting, because it usually cycles for 4 turns. This is going to go to 3. Recruitment health, recruitment cost is down, is very good. And then metastasis is, for advanced military buildings, it's -1. And an additional minus 10% rush cost. Now, I haven't used the rush system, so I don't know how much that matters, but getting 15% is pretty good. And then Lord and Hero recruit rank is kind of whatever. You're going to have a lot of Lords and Heroes by the time you get this. Recruitment health, construction costs from military buildings. This is garbage, I think. Winds of Magic and defensive supplies. Gates of Rot at that point in the game is okay, but that's only when you're in a garrison, or you have a cultist that's in a garrison. And then upkeep is obviously good. So, anyways, I think that getting Fecundity, just so you have a useful army ability, and it's very cheap, it only takes 2 turns, and then just going up through Come to Grandfather, or, you know, backing up and going Tumorous Squirt if you need to, just getting up through Metastasis. But I think mostly working the left side of the tree is where you want to be. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and fight it. Because if you manually resolve, those toads tend to take quite a bit of damage. And they're already sort of hurt. So we'll just run through this one faster. Oh, I probably should have hired something else. Not a huge deal, because I can hire them after this battle, some extra units. But they would have gotten a little bit of extra experience. But I mean, it's just going to be, I think, mostly chafe units. What do I have? The Plague Bearers left and Nurglings, I think. Actually, we're going to... Alright. Now, these things are going to be annoying, the horsemen. Try to come up this way. I don't want to get too close to them. I'm not even sure how... These guys can't run them down. They're not fast enough. So I'm not sure how we're going to deal with these Marauder Horsemen. I guess we're just going to have to... Because, yeah, they're really fast. I mean, they have a lot of armor, though, and regeneration. So I think maybe if we just run at them... I mean, we don't even need to be that organized for this. We can just run into them, probably. Just got to watch out for the spears with the big guys. don't let him get the toads. Must have misclicked there. Oh, we get him. Oh, we got him pinned. Oh, nice. Okay. Somehow we caught him. Okay, we got him. We just kind of tricked him into getting pinned against this wall, and then they just didn't move fast enough. I guess we got the charge in there. These things are anti-large, right? No, they're anti-infantry. Okay. There's an anti-large variant. We just don't have it. I thought we did have it. Okay. What is this debuff on them? Oh, it's the rage. Norska's kind of a cool unit. They just have been screwed over more than anything else. Like, they're just an afterthought. People who like, I guess, Vikings and Viking lore are probably not too pleased with that. But yeah, they have like 2 lords. I don't think they're ever gonna like give Norska anything else either. I mean, like, the Monster Hunter thing was kind of cool, but there's a lot of other factions that have that now, where it's like special quest battles to get buffs. The playstyle just in Norska itself is extremely obnoxious too, because towns, like, you just never have walls, even in your main settlement, so it's just, you're running around these mountains, so it's just like constant backdooring. Very, very difficult to do anything aggressive because you have to defend so much, or just lose your towns over and over again. So you see, like, winning this, we only get 10 infections. So open field, what were we getting, like 37 maybe? So we can loot and occupy and get 10 infections and a little bit of gold. But then we're getting a massive conquest penalty, which is going to hurt our growth and cause all these other problems. Okay, we got Kadatha. Now we got a chieftain panel. Okay. So look at this. This will probably be it for this episode. So we got a couple of fights, a couple of easy ones. We will have a hard one coming up soon. But, so basically how this works is you have to have so much dominance, and I think you get dominance from winning battles, I don't know what other is, or events. But then you can spend it to either unlock your chieftains. I think each one is 7. Okay, so we'll go ahead and recruit this guy. Okay. Bloodthirsty Knight, dedicated to the cause of Rotten Ruin. Kugan Warrior. Kozak the Befouled, as dedicated to the service of Nurgle. Pestilent Mass, that was once his flesh, is untouched by pleasure or pain. Even should such feelings be possible, he could not give voice to it, for his vocal cords are no longer more than an open wound. Not even his soul remains to him, for it was offered to the Plague Father as a trinket long ago. Now Kozak stands as nothing but a testament to the full horrors of Nurgle's blessings. Okay. And he gets extra army movement speed too. So I think this stacks if we ever get any other movement speed stuff. Alright, so this guy comes in, tier 3. And he basically gives buffs to all of your cavalry units. Or just charge bonus for all units, period. Weapon strength and all this for, yeah, cavalry type units. And this is once he gets rank 8. So pretty good. Not insane, but like pretty good. And he starts off on a Rot Beast and stays on the Rot Beast. Gets Ultimate Riders, Befouled Charge. And then Plague Duration +1 and chance of spreading 10% is pretty nice. But yeah, he's solid. And he has the training, which is very nice. They actually buffed this quite a bit. This used to be like absolute garbage, one of the worst blue abilities in the game. But now it's 10% instead of like 5 extra experience per turn or something. It's a total of 10% for all units in the army. So that's really handy. And then, yeah, I mean, you've got your like assault units, specialist, assassinate, but you want him in fights. Like, he's a good fighter. So, him on there, and then Tamurkhan. Let's do the Blessed by Blight, I think. Yeah, that would give us 200 extra per turn. Money, money, money. Okay, then let's put him in there. And now we want to hire these two dudes. Okay, and then rush recruitment costs. Well, oh, the recruitment wouldn't have kicked in until next turn anyway, so I think it's more important to have the replenishment rolling. I think we just want the corruption up ASAP. Try to counteract. The local armies thing is kind of annoying. Local populace 2, we're doing +8. Okay, and then I mean, growth is kind of important too. We do want to get to tier 3. How much growth do we have? We don't have that much, I don't think. I mean, that's pretty good, but it's very expensive. Zen by Jin. I would like to get to tier 3, because then that'll let us get chosen if we put up chosen stuff. Public order also affects growth, so yeah, I guess we'll just go with the growth one. The Nurgle is like, it's already going up quite a bit. Although that is going to go away a little bit when I leave. And that does give more control. And it does give infections. You know what? I guess I'll just go with Nurgle. So we're not going to have the money anyways for a while to upgrade the building. Okay, so we recruited all that. Alright, so how this works, and then we're basically, again, going to be out of time, I think. And again, I haven't played like super far into this. But you can spend 2 dominance to hire one of these. Or you can spend 7 dominance to recruit more of these heroes. And I think you can get them in any order. So they all have units that you can buy for so much fealty. Now I'm not sure how much these later ones cost. Presumably more. So I don't know if it's like 2, 4, 6. It does have 1 skull, 2 skull, 3 skull. So that would indicate that they're multiples of each other, but I don't know. I'm assuming it's something like 2, 4, 6. Now, you can have up to, I think, 8. 8 capacity for specialty units in your army. So that's quite a bit. And I don't know if that's every lord that you have or if it's just Tamurkhan. But that is quite a bit. And over here you have special chieftain abilities. So as you level this guy up, you have so much fealty that you get. So if you do their special task they're asking for, then your fealty goes up. And then they unlock more abilities. So this is separate from dominance. Dominance is a currency used to purchase units and other heroes. And then fealty is kind of like an experience bar for each one of them. So for this one, it's almost always defeating certain kinds of units or some other generic condition. So defeating Warriors of Chaos, Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, Norska, then that buffs him up, or creating plagues. Either one of those, I think, gives you 1 fealty each, or 1 alignment each. And once you get this threshold, then you get a chieftain ability, which I don't know how long this lasts. Said turns for cooldown, which is kind of weird English. 10. So does that mean that this ability is on the table for 10 turns, or that you cannot reactivate it for 10 turns after you've used it? It's hard to say, because some of these, like I think this last guy, is the army will be fully replenished. Again, is that just this one turn, or is that every turn for 10 turns? I think it's just this one turn, if I had to guess, for 1 dominance, because it feels like it would be very expensive, or like that would be an insanely good bargain for 1 dominance. It's like, oh yeah, my army fully replenishes every turn for 10 turns. So I think these abilities only last for 1 turn, for 1 fealty. So this one is enables attrition for all enemy armies of the province, spreading a plague for 20%. Could be good if you have a really good plague. You get the specialty Rot Knights, which are very good, and you get a Toe Dragon eventually. So you level these up, you get more abilities, you unlock these. So this is like your tier 2, this is your tier 3, and then your tier 4. I don't know if that means you get 2 every time you buy 1, or if that just means you can hold 2. I think it just means you can hold 2. Why would you buy it if you weren't going to immediately equip it, though? I don't know. But anyways, this dude's legit. This guy is also really good. This might be a second person that we get. So we're going to be getting a lot of our carry units from this with this guy, so we don't have to spend as much on especially the advanced military buildings early on. As long as we have a front line, as long as we got plenty of meat to soak up the damage, then these guys usually have pretty good business units, like this Dragon Ogre Shoggoth. He has 2, so he's one of the better ones. In that you get Rot Knights and this guy are both like pretty good carry units. This guy you get Aspiring Champions, which are pretty good. I mean, they're basically like on par with Chosen. Probably a little bit weaker than Chosen, but a little bit better than Chaos Warriors. They don't have much armor-piercing damage, but they do hit like a truck. So those are definitely solid units. Especially the cheap. You only have to pay 2 for them. That's pretty good. But, again, we're going to have a lot of those types of units already, probably in most armies. This is unique. With the Hell Cannon, it can make units come to you, which is really nice. If you have an artillery piece, you don't have to walk across the whole battlefield, because your units are very slow. Obviously, it fatigues them. You're going to be taking missile fire, all of that. So making them come to you is handy and unique for Nurgle. So these could be pretty good. I will say that a lot of the artillery units have been nerfed. That I noticed that with Elspeth. Especially, I don't know if the AI on every difficulty level does this, but on Legendary, very hard, they will dodge your artillery shots a lot. So traditional things like mortars and catapults are a lot weaker than they used to be. So this is a pretty slow moving projectile, but I think it's also a homing missile, or at least it used to be. Like, it at least locks on and curves a little bit to try to hit people. So it's probably pretty good. And then this is great. This is exactly what you need. A big monster unit that has anti-large, because you don't have spear units or halberd units as Nurgle. So your infantry doesn't, I don't think any of them have anti-large. So having your big units with anti-large is nice. Okay. And then the chieftain abilities, you get an extra movement. So that's actually really good for running people down, or if you're running away, getting 2 rounds of movement is quite nice. And then perfect vigor for all units. If there's a really difficult fight, that is massive. That's really, really good. So this guy's legit. Now, I don't know his, like, I said click on his profile. Let's see here. Aura of Madness, super good. That's like a lighter version of Pestilent Decay. And that only works if the enemy's leadership is low, but that's still good. It's AoE damage. Campaign movement range after raising a settlement. Ooh. But we don't want to be raising. We want to be conquering. But that's interesting. Then he gets a special talisman. Oh, that's... okay. And then you've got this guy. We're going to run over a little bit on the first episode, but you guys probably just want to see these real quick. Researching attack, so you're going to do that. Defeating elves. Probably not a lot of elves on the docket early on, but you can research techs. Let's see. He's a wizard. Minus 25% cost for overcasted spells. That's actually quite good. Income from sacking. Okay. Famirs are pretty good. Those are nice, you know, business kind of units on par. Like, well, they're better than trolls. They do have armor sundering, so that's pretty nice. So they're pretty good units. They are expensive, but they do have a lot of armor. But I think they're in the ballpark of armored trolls with just a bit more utility. They've got magic damage. 15 bonus versus infantry is pretty nice. But they're a pretty good old solid unit. Now this one, these anti-large ones, again, this is exactly what we need. So having another anti-large unit is handy. And you get a dragon. And he's a spellcaster. I think it's shadow magic. I don't remember exactly. So he's not a great fighter, but good shadow magic. All three of these, I would say, are pretty respectable. And then getting this is a hex that drops leadership by 24, which is really good. And it removes a lot of special case. Now this is kind of weird because it's going to make like undead run away temporarily instead of crumble. I would probably rather have them crumble. It does remove demonic, so that basically takes away the 20% physical resist. So it's an interesting ability. And then enemies can't move basically for a turn. So that's pretty cool. So he's up there. He's nice. I probably still want this dude first because I think he's just a better fighter. I don't think this guy's magic is crazy, although again, I just don't know their abilities yet. But this is pretty legit too. So these are both like pretty high tier in my mind. This guy, ambush. We're not going to be ambushing a lot. Frostbite. Okay. So like slows people. A little bit of death frenzy. I think he's anti-large. I could be wrong about that. These things are okay. They are anti-large. They do have regeneration, but they have very low armor. They do hit pretty hard. They do have physical resist. They do have frenzy as well. So what's the anti-large? It's 30 plus frenzy is 10. That's 40. So it's like 72 melee attack. That's going to hit a lot. That's going to hit often. So that's pretty legit. And then normal mammoth is okay. Like, it is a business unit that will tear up a bunch of infantry. But he can go berserk. Doesn't have any armor, but does have a lot of HP. And then this version is obviously a lot better. You know, just more damage, higher leadership, doesn't freak out. So this dude looks pretty legit too. This guy, these are kind of bad with our army. Centigores. This is pretty good. Nice little artillery piece that can kind of fight back. A lot of HP. And then this guy is really good. Anti-large, tier 5 type of unit. Now, purchasing chieftain units triggers him too. So you can probably level him up pretty quickly. What was this trigger? Raiding. Pretty easy. Researching text. Pretty easy. Now, you can get Beast Path, which is nice. But situational. This guy, I feel, is probably one of the worst ones. Let me see. Reeking Talisman. Okay, so you get free 2 extra Cygors. That's nice. Income from raiding. Raiding stance causes Nurgle corruption. Okay. This guy's range, so probably not amazing in hand-to-hand combat. He does have the replenishment. We're already going to have high replenishment, though. These are just not great, I don't think. This is just not what we're trying to do as Nurgle. Sit back and fire at people. Like, that's cool, but I'd rather have an artillery piece for that. They are like, okay in combat. So these troops are, like, okay in general. The blunderbusses do a lot of damage. But you don't get, like, the technology bonuses for that kind of stuff like the Chaos Dwarves get. And it just doesn't match our playstyle very well. The cannon is cool. It is expensive. They'll probably dodge it. But that thing does do a hell of a lot of damage from what I remember. But, like, it's obviously going to be better than the Hell Cannon, probably. But, like, how much better, you know? Or, like, a Cygor. So I would say he's probably last in my mind. This one is still pretty good. But I think I would rather have this guy or this dude to start with. But we'll see how it goes. I'll probably just unlock most of them anyways, just so I can start leveling them up. So I'll probably use most of my dominance just to unlock them and fight with them. But anyways, I think you have to get them all anyways to complete your victory conditions. But that's it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. And I'll see you next time.